Okay, almost there, Dave.
I'm fine.
Seconds away.
I'm fine.
This chair is very stressful. Get rid of that. Oh, jeez. Okay.
You're good.
This is.
Oh, hey, we're trust me, we go through this all the time.
Yeah, this is not the best situation right now. All right. Sorry.
We're going to be live here in a minute. It's scheduled, so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do this, but.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, you can start whenever you guys are ready.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. We'll just go with this.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll kind of carry it first. You get your thoughts together, okay?
Okay.
And as soon as we start, Rob's going to cut us off and he's out of here. So,
okay.
We're at Stand Tall with Dave Brown and get to be here today. It's a privilege to be with Dallas Malloy. We've been friends now for a couple of years. And Dallas, thanks for being on.
My pleasure. Great to be here, Dave.
Technology is always a blast. We're both dealing with technology at our end today.
We are.
It happened to me last night, Dallas this morning.
Yeah.
I told her it was a smog in LA where she lives. We're up here in Oregon. So you got smog. We got crazy people up here. So, Dallas, we've known each other now for almost a couple of years. We've been on the show once a long time ago and kind of track what you're going through. You've lived a crazy life. I think I've lived a crazy life. Yours is crazier than mine. But today, really, I wanted to catch up with you because you've had this huge thing happen in your life about writing a book, which, gosh, very few people ever really get to do, get it published and get it out there. Yeah. And so we need to get the address today so you can send me those 10 copies and then we'll figure out the whole Google, how we do that whole thing too. So, but, really quick, for everybody out there, Stand Tall, our whole goal here is to encourage you and to bring truth to you in education, politics, Jesus, sports, and people. And I'd say today, this one's probably going to be leaning into people, some Jesus, and politics, and even a little bit of education, honestly, and sports. I mean, Dallas is going to kind of cover all the bases because let everybody know really quick your boxing background.
All right. So thanks so much, Dave. And absolutely same thing. My goal is always to encourage people and uplift people. So through everything that I do. And so boxing, when I was a teenager, I made boxing history when I became the first female to have a sanctioned amateur bout against another female, because at that time there was no female amateur boxing. And so in order to fulfill my dream, and I never let anything stop me ever since I was a kid. If I wanted to do something, I just found a way. And so I contacted the ACLU, who still did some sane things back then. And they filed a discrimination lawsuit on my behalf. And we won. And they set up a women's division. Ultimately, there were more steps, but ultimately they set up a women's division so that we could have amateur boxing alongside the men's division in USA Boxing. And so I had the first ever sanctioned match against another female and won by unanimous decision. So that was sort of my beginning in boxing.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I think, to be at that, level of there, but you're being a little modest right now because you went on to, at the end of the day, I have a friend who's in the Pickleball Hall of Fame.
That's cool.
He wants to play golf this afternoon, and I'm trying to figure out a way to play and then still hit my goal of finishing my shop in the backyard. So I can't do both. But it was a big honor for him. What about for you? Because you are in the Hall of Fame for women's boxing.
That's right. So yeah, it was at the end of last year. I was inducted into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame, and it was yeah, huge. Excuse me, huge honor. It was a great experience, and it was, yeah, definitely. It was great to get that acknowledgement because, it's like anything, Dave. Anything you do that's outside of the realm of what's, you know conventional, or at the time that was really unusual, and so of course I got a lot of flack for it. And people now that don't know about that, but at the time women's boxing was totally on it was not popular. There was no
What,
MMA.
what year was your first match? That first match you did. What year was it?
It was 1993.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to give everybody some
Yeah, yeah.
perspective on
No, I
how,
know. It's like a million years ago. It's crazy.
but it's not really. It is, but it's not. That's so.
Yeah.
That's why the whole Title IX thing that we're fighting up here and across the country, and why
Yeah.
we resigned our positions as head coaches because
Yeah.
protecting women's and girls sports is so important to us.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and that's, boy, Title IX was just in the 70s. My wife was, the benefactor of all those opportunities that all of a sudden high schools and colleges had to start providing pretty much equal sports for the girls. It didn't happen overnight, though.
That's right. And Title IX was a huge part of why I was able to do that. It's like you can't deprive girls the opportunity. And back then it wasn't, somehow the sanity has slipped so much since then. No one would even have said, oh, I should just, compete with the men. I did train with men, and that's a whole other thing. That was great.
Right.
I love training with them. But competing is ludicrous. It was ludicrous then, it is now, as you know. And so that wasn't even an issue. So yeah, Title IX was why it was like, well, of course we have to set up a women's division. There's no reason not to. There's no logical reason.
Dallas, I remember, I don't think we talked about this last time, but I was in middle school at Rainey Middle School here in Newburgh, Oregon. And that would have been like 1970, 71.
Yeah.
And I remember seventh and eighth grade. And I mean, we had football, we had basketball, we had track and field baseball for boys. This is middle school, right? And girls had gymnastics.
Right.
And I remember going, and they were good at gymnastics, but all the girls would go out for gymnastics because that's all they had.
Right.
And I just remember, even as a, like when you're in middle school, you're pretty far behind the curve when it comes to really, getting out of the fog. And I just remember going, this is just not right. Why don't girls have, and I wasn't trying to be, I just remember thinking, why don't girls have, basketball and volleyball? Yeah. I don't agree with girls playing boys football, but, and soccer hadn't really hit quite yet. But I was thinking, volleyball's there, basketball's there. Yeah. Softball was, kind of just really kicking it in. But I just remember thinking, how come girls don't have the same opportunities as we do? That, and a lot of girls went out for cheerleading, which is fun. Right. Our cheerleading in Newburgh, our high school program is one of the best in the state, and they've won many state titles. I used to be the head basketball coach, and they'd be practicing in the gym, and they go as hard in their practice as anybody did basketball or anything else.
Yeah.
But I just remember being in middle school, and I mean, how did you feel? You're a lot younger than I am, but coming up through your schooling and how that was changing to get you to the point where all of a sudden you're going, I'm going to box.
Yeah. Before boxing, I was weightlifting. And the thing is, I'm so solitary. I played a little bit of basketball, a little bit of soccer when I was really but I was never really, I was always kind of focused on my thing. I mean, I was also a pianist at the time. I've been a pianist since I was 6. And so I'm just focused on what I'm doing. And so I don't remember feeling deprived of opportunities until it was boxing, because weightlifting, solitary thing, that was my, that was one of my first loves. And so I just started pursuing that myself. I found a gym. I took powerlifting in high school, And that was fine. That was open to anybody. So I don't remember being deprived of an opportunity, but then it was boxing when I found the rule in the rule
Right.
book, Yeah.
How do you, again, this is kind of new stuff we haven't talked about, but what would be your suggestion to, girls, say, whatever, fourth, fifth grade on up through high school into college? I mean, you've been through all of that. After you've seen what you've seen and you've accomplished what you've accomplished, and like you said, a lot of kids are like you. That's why I had a lot of kids come to tennis, because it was on their shoulder. They really dug that part of it. It was like no excuses. Either you win or lose, like boxing or anything. And they liked that whole approach, because I beat that guy. I'm number 7 on varsity.
Right.
And I'll go beat him, and I'll be number 7. Doesn't matter. My parents aren't popular. Mom doesn't drive a Mercedes. I'm not very tall. I'm still going to beat that guy. And they could do that. There was nothing holding them back. The coach couldn't say, well, the coach, I didn't have anything to say. You beat that kid. You're number 7. He's number 8. It was simple as that.
Right.
But what's your advice to girls and young women in high school, and then the young ladies in college, with what you've learned?
Right now, I would say at this moment, the biggest thing would be, don't allow yourself to be bullied into this crazy ideology that they're trying to push down on you. Every time we see a story about some team or, individual sport or whatever, where, some boy is in the girls now because they're allowing it. And of course he's, mostly, beating them. I'm saying, why are they even tolerating this? Girls are too agreeable. And so if they all stood together and just said, look, we're not, and many have, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to.
Yeah. No,
many of them have, but
this is
not
a tough
enough
one.
of them. Yeah. And I get it too. When you're younger, it's hard to go against the grain. I always went against the grain, but make no mistake, it wasn't easy. It's just that for me, when the love of something and the passion of something outweighs the discomfort of the heat I'm going to get for it, to whatever degree that is, I just had no choice but to keep going. That's me. That's how I'm built. And it was always uncomfortable. I don't like all the hate that I got then. I didn't like it then. I handle it way better now, but it's still not comfortable. But what's the alternative? To go along, go with the herd who's always wrong, be bullied, don't reach your dream, don't go for it, don't break out and follow that inner drive that's unique to you. No, that's not even an option. So I never didn't listen to that. I just would just go forward in spite of that, and not to sound like some martyr or something. That's just the way I am. And I know people are that way to different degrees, and some not at all, and some are complete go-alongers, and God help you. But I would just say to them, you just can't give in to this. You can't give in to this. And if there's something in you that's a calling, or even if you just want to try a sport or whatever, you should be able to have fair play, and the opportunity to go for it. And so you just, I've said this before, for me, my biggest fight was outside of the ring, just to get in the ring. It took a long time just to get that. And for some of them, whether it's boxing or, like the Olympics, anyway, it's a whole other thing, but they may have to sit it out, and that might be their way of fighting first. They may have to refuse. They may have to band together and say, look, we're not doing this. And I'm sorry, this boy has issues or stuff he needs to work through, and he needs help. He's confused, whatever it is, sorry, we all have issues. Life is tough. Deal with it. But we're just going to sit it out, and you guys are going to lose your funding until this is all girls at the end. That's it. This shouldn't be this big complicated thing. And so I would just tell them to stand strong. And then of course, the ultimate thing is, reach for God, pray for courage. It's one of the best things.
Let me ask you this question, Dallas. As a coach, for as long as I've coached, the one thing I saw in young people, and I had the privilege of coaching girls the last 4 years of my career, my wife went with me, and a lady named Colleen Hamilton went with me. It was a tremendous experience because I'd always coached boys, and so I got that opposite, and it is way different.
Mm-hmm.
But to the parents, I would say, and I want to know what your opinion is. I don't think even good parents, and there's a lot of really good parents out there. We like to hammer away at the parents, but I've seen two things. I've seen a lot of parents that aren't great, but there's not a lot of great training for out there to be great parents. That would be a societal thing. That's a podcast for another day. But another thing is I've never hardly ever seen a parent, no matter where they're coming from, no matter what their background is, they love their kid. But I've also seen that right now, especially how complicated it is compared to my time, and I think even your time as a kid, I don't think a lot of kids are sharing what's really going on at the school. I don't think the parents have any clue how pressure on their kids, especially girls. And this is a crazy thing to say, but this is my point. I'm talking to some young guys, right? They're 22, 23. We were at a barbecue about a month ago, and I was stunned at what they said. I coached most of them, but I said, so how's the dating game going? You met anybody, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of all looked at each other and they said, yeah, no, yeah, and everything. And then all of a sudden they said, can we just be really honest with you? And I said, yeah, I didn't know what was coming. Well, one of the things that the boys are dealing with right now is, are they really on a date with a girl? Like, that's a thing. And I'm like, that just never even dawned on me. And I'm just like, say what? And they're going, yeah, we're like, is this really a girl we're on a date with? And so now, can you imagine the pressure on a young man or even a young lady to sit back and say, I want to be with a girl, or I want to be, if you're a girl and you want to be with a guy, but you have to ask that question, or you have to worry about that. And the same thing with, I did hear that a couple times from girls too. And it's just like, I don't think parents really understand any clue what's really going into schools, because I don't think the kids are coming home and telling them all the crazy stuff, the bathroom situations and the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And so my point is, how do you feel? Because I think the parents love their kids, but they're pretty deep in the fog.
Man, take them out of public school. First of all, I know that's easy to say, but if at all possible, I know I'm not in that world, but I talk to a lot of people, and I am very much aware of these things, at least to some degree, that they're dealing with. And there are more resources now available than ever to homeschool, because people are fed up with this, the ones that find out, and they're pulling their kids out. And so there are a lot of resources available. So that would be something, if possible, is to get your kids out of public school, because of this obvious infiltration of terrible ideologies that are just devastating and false, gender theory, and it's Marxism that has infiltrated. But yeah, there's such a social contagion, because a part of me is like, this is still really unusual. I know they say, oh, the numbers of kids identifying as trans is up. I don't know. I heard something like 20 something percent. I'm not going to quote it, because honestly, it's like these numbers where it's hard to know what's true. What I know is that it's greater in, large cities. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
This is so it's sad that they feel that way. I see why, but I don't know. I don't know how this is all going to end. I know the truth always comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know God's the answer, and that sounds really simplistic, but ultimately it is, meaning.
Well, we're gonna talk about that in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as a life, that is your constant way of knowing what to do, say, how to discern. So if you have God guiding you, you'll be okay, whoever, parent or kid. But yeah, it's such an obvious attempt to destroy the family. It's just, we could go on that for so long.
Well, we will in a minute here. I'm going to do a quick couple of promos, and then we're going to jump into your book and stuff. But my first one, this is one I was telling you about the other day. I'm going to put this on screen right here. The Ivan Ranklin. I'm going to try to get this as close as I can to my screen.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And this guy I got to hear last Saturday, and I'm hoping people are taking a look at that. And I'll repeat it verbally also for you, and we'll put it on our website too. Maybe the best speaker I've heard since Vivek Ramaswamy at the Republican National Convention. As far as just his delivery was just smooth and funny. He's also a very funny guy. Yeah. The Deep State Marauder is what he's in charge of there. He's a former lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, retired, and you can go to www.ranklin.com. Again, www.ranklin.com. Go there and just scope Ivan out. He has put a ton of time in. He was a 25-year veteran of the military intelligence community. He's been all over the world. He's been a commander. He knows a lot. And I'm not often, like, I like to listen to people speak, but I'm not often like, wow, this dude was amazing. And like I said, I heard Vivek Ramaswamy from 20 feet away at the Republican National Convention at breakfast. I'm sitting next to Sarah Huckabee and my wife. Oh my gosh. We're like, this is so cool. But Vivek Ramaswamy is probably the smoothest speaker I've ever heard. Now, whether you like him or not, I agree with him. He's like, the guy can just never one note. And this is the way this guy was, never a note. And so anyway, that's a promo for Ivan. Please look at the Deep State Marauder and get ready to be challenged. I'll just say that. My second one, this is going to be a lead in to you, Dallas. Joe Hoft, The Steel. There's 3 volumes to this, and I have them all on my desk right now. We had Joe Hoft out here. We got to be part of his show with 5 million viewers. He was at our house for 2 days. I just saw him last Saturday. The Gateway Pundit is him and his brother both run this. And Joe's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Nice. And the Gateway Pundit is one of the leading, online publications for more conservative news out there. And they are incredibly impressive. So again, The Steel, Joe and I talked about it. We're going to get more books. Dallas, we're going to talk about the same thing. We want Stand Tall with Dave Brown to be a gateway, not no pun intended there, but for people like Dallas and Joe, to be able to get their books someplace where people will connect with them. Because when you write a book, you want people to buy it, and that's kind of it's kind of an encouraging thing. And so we really want to be a promoter for people's books. I'm going to promote Dallas's book here because I think the reason, Dallas, I like to get these books is because forever being a Tom Clancy fan, and I've read all those. I love them. But, I'm more ready now, I guess maybe as I've gotten older and gotten more into politics and education and all this, is I really want something that's it's helping me understand all the different angles of really what's happening. And boy, you read Joe Hoft in all 3 volumes and you're just like, oh my goodness. Now you might not agree or you might agree with everything, but you will be challenged. And so that's a lead in right now to Dallas, to your book. Nice. And, I'm excited for you because it's amazing to me. I want to write a book, but what you've done is incredible.
Thank you.
What is the whole deal with your book? Give them the title and give us a rundown.
This book, thanks, Dave. Stand Up and Fight. It came from just this hunger for speaking the truth and just and passion and just help and encouragement, because it sort of wrote itself. What is it going to be? Well, it's because, Dave, I'm always working on multiple things at once. I have songs I'm writing. I have my next 4 or 5 books like in the works at various stages. Other, acting projects. So things are always kind of like this. They're not super linear with me. And so I was, a couple of years, like 2022, I was formulating, like, is this going to be kind of a memoir? Is it going to be about my boxing? Something, as a coach also, I'm a coach. So it's like things to help people. People are hungry for knowledge. They're dying for truth and also encouragement, because uh, everything around us is beating us down, is distracting, is um, trying to uh, eat us alive. It's horrible. And,
Right.
I'm talking about, the mainstream media and the whole thing. And there's, there's reasons for that. But nothing is about building up people. It's not, all the, commercials aren't about real health. They're about making you a consumer, and everything's about fear. And so anyway, I've always hated all of that. Uh, and so it was just sort of, as a coach, there's things I want to tell people and I want to share. I don't care about, all the things that I've been through and all the things, the challenges that I've overcome, and there's been many. It all makes it worth it when it serves to help and inspire other people. At the moment, it doesn't. You don't think about that when you're in the pain of it. But when it becomes a testimony later, it's totally worth it. And that's a spiritual thing. When you turn it over to God, it becomes
Right.
a great source. It's like, addiction that I've been through, as at the time in it, you never would have thought this is going to be maybe a miracle for somebody else. I could say something that might literally save their life, not because it's me, but because God used me to turn this, beauty for ashes. And so I just want to use all those things. I have more than enough material. You hear that, God? No more. I'm good forever. The end. So it's like I wanted to incorporate those things. And so it just kind of became what it was. In the meantime, we're in the lockdowns, and lockdowns, that's the time where I basically, from 2020 is when I was really shaken awake, because I completely changed. I went through so much, and that's what really woke me up to what we're living through, and just the lies and the establishment and the globalists and all these things. And politically, I changed and I moved left to right, and just all these things happen. And it was great. Like, it was a terrible time, but at the same time, it was alive. My eyes are open. So there's things I'm just dying to share. And so that just kind of, as I was compiling these ideas, it became Stand Up and Fight. And I think when I settled on the title, that's where it really solidified. It's like, okay, I'm a former boxer, I'm a fighter in life, I'm a former bodybuilder, all these things that require discipline and strength and power. At the same time, I've been at the bottom, I've been in the gutter, I've been alcoholic and all these things. These are all useful things, and all of it is worth sharing. And it's not a full memoir at all. I go into a few points to share a lesson, but it wasn't a full-on memoir. But it ultimately became about spiritual warfare, because as I was writing it, I was leaning more into God. Again, it was like, I don't know, let's say it was around 2022 that, excuse me, I started to really lean into God more in 2020, and continuing on. But that's when I really started to learn about spiritual warfare and how to fight it. And you fight it with God's word. You fight it with, saying his word out loud. And I'm praying, driving, declaring God's word out loud all the time, and these types of things. And so that's what it became about, is here's what I've been through. Here's how my eyes have been opened. Here's some encouragement. And Stand Up and Fight is, against the bullies, against the establishment voices, the globalist voices that are literally trying to destroy humanity. Do I have to beat around the bush? Look at what's happening.
Well,
These
Dallas,
are
I
not
think
conspiracy
for
theories.
me, it's like with you, for me, it's been a blast getting to know you, because
Ditto.
we've all met people that have had different kind of life experiences. But one of the things I think is really cool about Dallas Malloy is that you've been up and down like a roller coaster, and I know I have been too. And I think most people have. Maybe they're not into addiction or
Right.
to the depths of some people. But what I love about your story is overcoming,
Yeah.
overcoming, battling, not giving up, you know, because
Yeah.
so many people just give up, men or women, they
Yeah.
give up and they just settle, and you don't settle, and I
No.
don't settle. And I love that about your story. And so, you know, producer Rob's, you know, we had a little bit of a delay getting started today, so he's giving me a warning here pretty quick. But
Oh,
I want to finish on the fact of, you know, we both have a strong faith in Jesus.
yeah.
And I've probably been at it longer, but I didn't go to church growing up until I didn't accept Christ till 22 years later in life. It doesn't matter the time.
Yeah.
So tell me really briefly, you inject that in your book.
Yeah. I had to. I can't help it. It's one of those things. There's a point, and I think I move closer to this day by day, every day that we go through right now in this time, this moment in time, especially, where I don't care. I have unapologetic faith, and I'm a person that I would have made fun of when I was a kid. You know, I grew up in an atheist household, this sort of
Right.
culture where it was sort of, secular and like kind of no boundaries and, you know, like secular humanism and just these things. And I was deceived by a lot of things, and a lot of them I didn't wake up to till later. And, but when I got sober, I was, really hit over the head and woke up to, okay, I think there's something. And I would talk to God, and I developed that relationship, and I kind of referred to God as higher power, and it grew from there. And that's wonderful. And that's the thing too. God meets you where you are. And that's an important message to anybody, because there's a lot of people questioning, maybe, I don't know. Look, God meets you where you are. So God, one of the best prayers is, God help me. Like, just start there. Just start there. But so that evolved, but yeah, it went into overdrive in the last few years because of the necessity. And I learned a lot from Julie Green. I still watch. She's an amazing pastor and a prophet, and I watch her all the time. And I learned about my authority in Christ. That's something I never heard about. I also learned that from Joyce Meyer as well. You have to hear sometimes in multiple ways from different people for it to really make it that long trip from here to your heart.
Right.
And I started to understand that, and I started really going into the Bible and learning. It's like, we're not supposed to be pushovers, and people bag on Christians constantly. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But we're supposed to walk in authority in Christ. And again, I would have laughed at those words a few years ago, but it's just, I don't care anymore. There isn't time. We're out of time. So the more I leaned into God, the better things got. Not necessarily in my circumstances immediately, sometimes not, but internally, that's the thing. It's an inside job, that. And so even though circumstances in some ways are worse than they've ever been, working more than I've ever worked and making less, like most people, getting less back, barely getting by. This is a reality. But God, I know.
Yeah, I would say too, that's like one of the things when you put yourself out there with your work you've done. And I know for me, there's the naysayers, the people that want to be mean online, the people that want to say stuff. And
yeah.
most of the time I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing a pretty unhappy person there, but I don't know them. They don't know me.
Yeah.
They don't know, so I think yesterday on a podcast, we talked at length about getting to know each other. You and I've had several conversations where, your passion for women's sports, what you've been through. And so again, our time's almost done, but I wanted to, we'll do another one here shortly because I want to get more into I'd like to go through the chapters with you the next time on the next podcast.
Oh, I'd love that.
But I think, and we'll talk afterwards about, the books and getting those up here. But, I think for everybody out there right now, Dallas Malloy to me is somebody to look at, because you have overcome adversity so many different times in your life in different ways.
Yeah.
But it's still, life's tough. you know, life's rough, and you have, again, these people that really want to take, you know, pot shots at you all the time. They want to be mean, say stuff. They want to call you names. And it's like, you know, I think in today's society right now, it's really interesting where you have people who are unhappy enough to have to get on Facebook and do all that kind of stuff. And I think what really people really want to kind of come up with right now is they want people just to at least have a conversation with them and not judge and stuff. But I know you're fighting for, you know, women's rights in sports and girls' rights. We are too up here, you know, and I think the eyes are starting to open up to a lot of people out there, and it's a slow go. It's been a weird last, you know, 4.5, 5 years in our country. And the next time, let's just go chapter by chapter. It sounds kind of like a Bible thing from our church, but let's just kind of go through those chapters and spend a minute on each one and let people know, you know, what's up with, you know, why you wrote that chapter now.
Right.
And I think that would be really fun to do. So Dallas, I know the tech stuff this morning was frustrating, but you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. You're the best. I appreciate you so much.
Well, have a blast with whatever you're doing next. And I know you're sunshine. We got a beautiful day here in Oregon, by the way, Dallas. It's awesome. So
great. Good. Enjoy it.
Working out on the shop, or do I go golfing? What should I do?
I think you should do a little of both.
Okay.
Work in the shop and then go celebrate.
I might. Okay. I'll take that. Yeah. Well, this is Stand Tall with Dave Brown. We had Dallas Malloy on here, and Stand Up and Fight's her new book. And, you know, go to standtallwithdavebrown.com. We're going to promote it. And thanks for all the support. We have a ton of people calling in and emailing us and letting us know, you know, what they're thinking of the show. And it's been a great response. So, again, look up Dallas Malloy. And I think you'll find some stuff that's really interesting to you. So Stand Tall with Dave Brown. Peace.
Thanks, Dave.